Hello listeners, it's Francesca Turauskis here, and just before we get into this episode, I wanted to pop in at the start to say thank you for waiting for this episode. It was meant to come out a couple of days ago, but the good thing with it being delayed is that I can now tell you On the Outside has been nominated in the Pod Bible Poll Winners 2021. We are nominated in the social conscience category, which is amazing and full of podcasts such as Have You Heard George's Podcast, The Logbooks, Griefcast, Some Families. So really amazing shows to be up against. Now, I do work for Pod Bible, which is possibly why my boss decided to put in my podcast here, but I know that he wouldn't have put it in if he didn't believe that it was good enough. And the great thing about the Pod Bible polls is the winners are purely chosen by voters. That means that you as listeners can go to podbiblemag.com, vote now. We are up against some amazing podcasts, so I don't know how well we will do in the grand scheme of things, but it is amazing for us to be in there, and I would really love your support. So please do head to podbiblemag.com. Voting will take place until the end of December. Polls close at midnight on December the 31st, and I really hope that if everyone listening votes, we may stand a little bit of a chance. So please do, go ahead, get voting. Hello and welcome to On the Outside, the podcast sharing diverse views on outdoors news. My name is Francesca Turauskis. I'm the producer of On the Outside and your host for today. And this is the 6th episode of the season and the final episode of the season. And to end the series, we have a special episode for you, all about Kendal Mountain Festival. So the format is a little bit different on this one. We have got a conversation that was recorded at the festival itself, and then afterwards we have a number of messages and voice notes from listeners who were also at the festival and have given us their views and opinions. So we'll get into the conversation in a moment, but I thought I would give a quick intro to the festival itself for those of you who might not know about it. If you listen to episode 2 of the series, you'll remember that Soraya had also only recently learned about KMF and referred to it as the UK's answer to Banff. That's quite a good description for it because Kendal is a film and literature festival. It takes place every year in November in Kendal, in the Lake District, and it's been running for over 40 years now. There's 4 days worth of films, talks, books, exhibitions, and it covers all aspects of mountain and adventure sports culture. The British Mountaineering Council has said it is by far the largest and most varied event of its type in Europe, and it's the main social event for outdoor enthusiasts in the UK. So as such, a lot of the On the Outside panel were going up to the festival. This was going to be a great chance for an in-person meeting and an in-person recording, and it was also a good excuse for me to experience Kendal for the first time. The weekend was quite intense, but I did manage to pin down 2 of our panellists, Soraya Abdel-Hadi and Kirsty Pallas. So for those who don't know, Soraya is the founder of All the Elements, a community of groups and individuals who are working to increase representation across all areas of diversity in the UK outdoors. And Kirsty is the founder of Our Shared Outdoors, which is working to redefine the outdoor narrative to become inclusive to all. We managed to find a quiet-ish place to record on the Sunday morning and have this little chat, and I hope you do enjoy.
I am picking up all of that music.
It's fine. That's all right, it's background. It's very much ambient of Kendal.
It is ambient of Kendal.
I don't know if that's the right way to use that word.
It's
the Kendal ambiance.
Ambiance. I think it'd be really cool to basically have Kirsty describe where we are right now?
Just now?
Just now.
Okay.
Go for it.
So we're sat in the sunshine at the balcony at the Brewery Arts Centre. We've got the Shackleton tent just down below us, and the BMC Breakfast Club is on in there. So there's some clapping now and some films. So yeah, you'll probably hear that a little bit, but it's just nice to be sat in the sunshine in November.
It is really nice out here. I'm, as you can probably hear, it sounds like I've been partying really hard, but that is untrue. I have just been talking to a lot of amazing people.
It is Sunday morning.
It is Sunday morning.
I left that bit out. That's the important thing. We're on Sunday morning, last day.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is, we've experienced quite a lot of Kendal already.
Yeah.
And today's got some amazing stuff coming up too. But luckily, apart from this, there's not going to be a lot of me talking.
Yeah. It's a winding down day, but the last 2 days have been amazing.
Yeah.
What's your favourite bit been so far?
Oh, I think actually, not to sound arrogant, but I really enjoyed speaking at the climb session.
I really enjoyed my
I really
talk.
enjoyed when I got the stage to tell everyone how great I am.
It was good. It was really good. I saw it and I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think, well, actually, no, I tell a lie. My favourite bit was actually Carlos's talk at the same session. So Carlos Casas of Colour Up Bristol did an amazing little segment of the climb session.
He did. And he is one of the nicest men in the entire world. And he rounded up kind of all of everyone's thoughts, I think. Like, it was actually a very this year Kendal vibe about how we all want to feel part of this bigger community and how we can be welcoming and kind, and how that is really what all of these activities are about, and our connection to them. So it was just, yeah, I think a lot of people found it quite moving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I knew I was going on after him and I was like a bit emotional. I was like, oh God, I've got to follow this.
I did hear, I met him for the first time last night. I was sat next to him for a bit and I was like, so I hear that you make everyone cry.
What did he say?
He was like, yes, I do.
Yes.
For good reasons, I hope. I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. So that was a really beautiful part of the festival. And Women in Adventure was really good last night as well. Yeah, so I was there as a climber, obviously, but as a newly qualified mountaineering and climbing instructor, just chatting about the process and how I got into it and how it doesn't need to be as scary as people say it is. So yeah, I think it's really good that was included, because I know when I kind of first heard about the qualifications and was going through them, you hear all these horror stories of how hard they are, but there's hopefully a little bit of myth busting.
There was definitely myth busting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think everyone in that session really added something different to the conversation about climbing. And I think it was really cleverly put together.
Yeah.
Can you just expand on that a little bit? Because I thought it was a panel. And I was surprised, but also kind of like, I would have been more interested in that if I knew the way it actually was shaped. The shape of the...
This almost sounds like I designed it, which I did not. But if I was going to take credit for the design of a session. So at the beginning of the session, there was Leah, who's a paraclimber, and Aidan, who is a quite a young climber who has had this like different journey through from competitions into outdoor climbing, and they were in conversation talking about their journeys, and also really interestingly talking about who's inspired them, what type of coaching and support they'd received and how that's influenced them, and then how they want to help influence others, basically. So it was quite a nice introduction into how different people might get into the sport. And then it was Carlos. And there was a video shown, which was from a project I did organise called the Outsiders Summit. And there was a video of that experience with Carlos basically taking other activity group leaders climbing. So all of the activity group leaders who took part in the Outsiders Summit are working on access and representation for people of colour in outdoor activities. So that was a real taster of what he does and what he's all about. And then he gave his amazing emotional talk, which everyone was like, "We love you, Carlos." Yeah. I can't even do it with my voice today, but we love you, Carlos. I've been doing it too much. And so that was amazing. And then from there, we went into Kirsty and learning more about qualifications and representation also within the actual people who are teaching you how to climb and how to get outdoors and what that looks like. And then Kirsty into...
Neil Gresham.
Ah, yes, who was talking about Lexicon.
Yes, his new E11.
Yeah, which sounded amazing. And actually, as a climber, so I am actually a climbing instructor as well, but not like Kirsty. But I haven't climbed really or instructed in the last few years. And it reminded me, that whole arc really reminded me, like, I miss climbing a lot. And I miss all of the aspects of it, like the problem-solving aspects, the community aspects, the coaching and the training and the supporting other people, like all of those bits, which are what I loved about the sport, were kind of represented in that session.
Just very quickly for the non-climbers among us, the Lexicon E11 that's basically like a project that he's kind of like working to crack, as it were.
Well, so he has climbed it, but it's a first ascent, so it means it's not been climbed before. And E11 is quite an extreme grade, extremely hard.
Like, I've done 4, so it feels like that's quite high above. What I've done. But I think the session did a really good job of like just leaving everyone psyched.
Yeah, exactly. Like the arc of it was really good, and the advice that everyone gave was very much like, you do you. And you find what you love about the sport and where you want to go with it.
Fighting a losing battle.
When we have a bit of quiet again, I think we'll just very quickly do kind of like expectations versus reality. Because obviously you've been to Kendal a few times.
No, only once, 7 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Gosh, you were still a baby. How young would you have been when you came?
I would have been 20.
That's really young. I feel like that's really young to I suppose.
Do you know what's interesting about that? Is I would say that is young for the demographic that's here this year. We do need to talk about diversity at Kendal this year, though.
I mean, I suppose I could just ask, how have you found the level of diversity? Because I know you were speaking about this a bit last night in terms of the panels and the speakers. Like, it's amazing. But in terms of the people that have come, it's mostly been the panels and the speakers, and then
I forgot I said that. That's an excellent point.
Are you sure you weren't partying too hard?
No, it wasn't.
I was like going, damn. I was recording this.
Yeah. So diversity at Kendal this year has been amazing. I am biased because it is what I do, and I have spent all of the time running around trying to catch the members of the All the Elements community talking about all their different aspects of diversity within the framing of what they're great at. On all of the different stages, different conversations. Also seen them hosting within activity areas that they are amazing at too. And I'm just so I'm quite emotional about it, because I feel like I'm really proud. Like, I am proud, but that feels like I'm saying that it's almost unexpected. But I don't mean it like that. I just am I'm just so grateful to be able to see them working within these spaces that they love, doing what they love, and really representing a broader sector of society. But it was interesting when we talked, and we've talked about this a lot, and people have asked a lot about, like, what do you think about the diversity at Kendal? And I do think that although everyone is saying it's more diverse, the diversity is coming from the speakers and the panellists who are taking part in the in the structure of the event, who are then going to the other activities and events. It is not necessarily like a brand new audience of people coming from outside who are attracted yet.
Yeah.
I think that will come.
Do you think that's just because this is a step?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's it. It's a process. And it's always going to be a process. And actually, Rachel from Black Trail Runners was on a New Voices panel yesterday. And she was saying, you know, we have to recognize as well that our society is changing. And the diversity within society is changing. And so that's also going to have an impact on the diversity within activities, but also diversity at festivals and things like that, because the actual demographic of the UK is going to be different.
Yeah.
One of my podcast mentors, Imriel, she has just won an award for Content is Queen, which is her podcast group. And she... The acceptance speech was 7 words, which is diversity is a process, not an outcome.
Yes. Yeah. Which is the same. So diversity being a process rather than an outcome is the same as the idea that sustainability is never something which you reach, right? The work that we do with environment and conservation is always ongoing. Like all of these things, we are always too quick. Actually, it's quite funny now I think about it. We're always too quick to look for an end result. But actually, as people who work within the outdoor sector and who usually are taking part in like sports and outdoor activities, we're always looking for constant progression and improvement, right? And
as soon as you hit you set a goal and you hit it and then you're like, right, what's next?
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like that's something that we need to take forward with some of these other things that we're trying to like integrate and support, because it's something we're familiar with. Why can't we do it? I'm like, it's definitely Kirsty's time to talk.
I guess, well, just very, very much agreement. I think what's really good it's not even just this year. I think what's really good is that, as you were kind of saying, people coming from those underrepresented groups aren't here just to talk about discrimination and hardships and how hard it's been for them. They're here to talk about their specialities, which I think is something that is not seen that often at the moment. You know, most folk are brought in because we're like, oh, we want a diverse voice. Tell us how hard your life is. Here it's like, oh, tell us how much you enjoy climbing, or running or whatever it is, which is really nice. And I think there's going to be a process of a few years before we see the audience reflecting the diversity of the speakers and the panellists here. You need the imagery, you need the representation to start at the top before it's going to trickle down. And these things take time. So, I think it steps in the right direction.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wonder whether there's also this element of, because there's a bigger communication thing here about Kendal, which everyone who's within the like mainstream outdoor sector knows about.
Yeah.
And like what the community groups are doing and how they're engaging and how we get, and I mean, I almost am saying this like I'm marketing Kendal, but it's like how we get Kendal in front of that audience who would love it.
Yeah.
And get it.
Oh, can I still your microphone?
I think what's good this year is a lot of those community leaders have been invited to Kendal. So hopefully that means they'll be able to take kind of, almost the knowledge back to their communities and open it up for future years.
Yeah. We spoke a little bit in episode 2 about Kendal and the fact that both you and I were a bit like, oh, there's this Kendal thing. It's really big. Never really was on my radar. And that's something which I have heard echoed in quite a lot of the people that I have met that are speaking. And I was speaking to Carlos particularly last night, and he was like, I didn't really hear about it until I was invited to speak and that kind of thing.
And I was like, oh, there'll be so many people that are just like cursing you because like they've been wanting to speak for years and all this kind of thing. But I suppose kind of like expectations versus reality. I was like super nervous coming into this, and I think Soraya, we were talking about it, is Kendal has kind of been on my radar for a couple of years, and I just have never come because I've never felt like I would know anyone or I would know enough about the outdoors to fit in there. Because even here a bit, I wouldn't say I'm a climber. I don't know the climber terminology. I don't know the climbers that are famous and that kind of thing. And it's the same with all of the sports here, even the hiking. I'm kind of enthusiast, but I'm not an expert, and I don't kind of like follow the sports. So I did feel really nervous coming, and I've never felt comfortable. And I've just felt like super honored that the time that I've come and I felt comfortable is when people I know are the ones that are like speaking. And it just feels like everyone that I know is rising stars, and it's I'm getting emotional now. And it's like, and it does feel just like I just feel like really welcomed in the community groups, and I feel very honored to be a part of that. And thank you both for speaing to me and taking your Sunday morning off, and
Thank you for
all of
having
that
us.
kind of thing.
I know.
It's been emotional.
The whole weekend has been quite something.
It really has. It really has. And I think it is like, hang on, let me switch mics around. I feel like though, some of this should be on the podcast because we're here together. We're finally all here in person. It just is quite nice.
I'll just take this. It's just going to be a conversation at Kendal.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I can't wait until we can do more in person.
I know.
I know.
I know. Well, the vibe is just different, isn't it? Because it's really hard on Zoom because everyone's like waiting for one person to speak or someone else to speak.
You're not sure who's speaking next.
Yeah, and it's just
trip to Scotland.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. I actually had a chat with anyway, I'll tell you in a minute. Me and Fran had this conversation about being nervous about coming to Kendal, and I had a moment like the week before. I actually wasn't nervous about coming. And then the week before I was suddenly like, am I going to enjoy this? Because I've spent quite a lot of time in the adventure community. I've been to a lot of events. There's a lot of, or previously at other events that I've been to, there has been a specific type of story that's been told. There have been specific types of voices, and after a while you feel like you're hearing the same thing over and over again to the same audiences. It's very like echo chambery. And so I was like, do I want to go? Like, I do want to go, but do I want to go? And then I came, and it's been so amazing. And so many amazing things happening, so many amazing conversations, and not just with the community groups, right? And not just with learning more about what people do through like them talking about what it is on stage, but also discussions with brands has been amazing. Looking at like what their plans are and what they want to do moving forward and how they want to better support diversity in the outdoors, but also like move the conversation forward around sustainability and like environment and all of those things. Like, it feels like a very activist space this year. It really does. And I mean, I love that because that's like where I sit. So it just makes me really happy. I want more of this, please.
I think this year I saw how many people were coming, and I was just so excited because it was in person. And I think like the last year and a half, I've met and got to know so many people online, but haven't been able to meet anyone. So it's like totally lived up to all my dreams of being a social butterfly.
Yes. Yeah, that is the thing. That is actually the glorious thing about the outdoor community social media.
Yeah.
Is actually everyone does like recognize not just who the people are, but also what they know what people are about.
Yeah. And like the projects, and like people have been saying, people have been recognizing people via the projects. There's a few people that introduced to you and you're like, oh, I know all the elements and that kind of thing. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I think this year is such an amazing space just because of who is here.
Yeah.
So lucky that, Yeah, I heard someone say that, and it's so true. It's like, it's my Instagram feed in real life.
It is. I mean, we are all like, I'm going to say, I do feel we are all slightly biased because we do all love the same people. And
and they are here.
They are all here.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's amazing. And like, what a way to come out of COVID and back into like the outdoor community.
Yeah, for sure.
Mic drop.
Excellent.
Like, thank you.
We spoke to some of our listeners after Kendal Mountain Festival, asking them for feedback. At Emily.Husky told us that it was her first time at Kendal Mountain Festival. She said that she decided to go in this year because it was a great chance to meet up with people she'd met online, but also getting to see them. The favourite part of the festival was being sat in the cinema with queer people watching a film that represents them. When we asked Emily what she would like to see done differently or better next year at Kendal, she told us that she would love to see more quiet or chill places available and possibly last-minute tickets for films. Either that or even tickets that are returned being offered for resale.
So, hi, my name is Frit and I am an adventure filmmaker, and I run a film studio called Passion Fruit Pictures, whose sole mission is to add colour and diversity to the outdoors and adventure industry through filmmaking. Kendal for me was the most incredible social gathering of all my incredible friends in the outdoors industry, and it was also a really incredible milestone for my career. I remember being at Kendal for the first time in 2018, I think it was. And at the time, I went by myself. I didn't have anyone to go with. So I just took myself off and I camped in my van at Kendal Dojo Centre. And I remember I walked myself around Kendal and watched films, attended workshops. And I remember thinking to myself, I would absolutely love to speak at Kendal one year. I had no idea how I was ever going to make that happen. But then this year I had 3 opportunities to speak, which was incredible. I spoke about Glide for Pride on one of the free stages at base camp. That was a phenomenal talk that ended with a huge vocal cheer and clap from the audience members as well as myself to commemorate transgender lives that have passed on Transgender Day of Remembrance. So my talk just happened to coincide with that particular day, and it just seemed like a really great way to be able to commemorate all the really brave souls that have unfortunately passed away as a result of violent crime. I also had a Q&A with Joe Mosley, which was amazing. We together really wanted our film Brave Enough to be able to get into Kendal, and I'd missed the deadline for it the year before. So I'm really, really glad that it did. And not only that, we were able to also be together and do a Q&A together. And it really for us was just a milestone for us to have brought Brave Enough, this film, my very first film, and a film that's very close to Jo's heart because it's particularly personal with her story. It was just amazing to be able to share that moment together and really see how far we'd come together. And then finally, I spoke on a brilliant panel with just the most incredible people, with Eden, Cam and Smith, and we spoke after the They Them screening and had an all transgender and non-binary panel afterwards. And it was the most emotional panel I've ever done. The most emotional speaking engagement, to be honest, that I've ever done. And I really kind of didn't feel myself whilst I was on it, because for most of the time I felt like I was fighting back tears. And there was so much about watching the film in the setting that it was in, and looking out across the audience and seeing so many different faces of people who had paid to come to watch a film that is about a topic that is so close to my heart. I think that really was the reason why I was so emotional and why it meant so much to me to be asked to be part of the panel and to speak alongside just some incredible souls.
Hiya, my name is Kelly Smith from Kelly Smith on the Go on Instagram, and I was on the They Them panel. It was my first Kendal Mountain Festival, and I was absolutely blown away by everything that it put together. It was vibrant, it was energetic, it was diverse, it was inclusive, it was everything that I hoped it would have been. It was everything I wanted it to be. I was so happy to be a part of the process, and having had it been my first year, to be a speaker on my first year is just absolutely phenomenal. So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you to Kendal for, just curating a space for us all to be together. It was a great opportunity for me to see literally every single person I had ever seen in the outdoors, in one space. It was phenomenal, and I can't wait for next year.
So this one comes from Iona, who you can find on Instagram at iona.adventuring. And she says, I've never felt so emotional at an outdoor event. Watching They Them had me fighting back the tears, and it felt wonderful to be sitting in the audience surrounded by people who I just knew were there sharing the same level of love and support as me. Well done to the whole panel for managing to hold it together afterwards and convey some really poignant thoughts and experiences. And don't get me started on Carlos's insanely moving speech at the climb session. Holy moly, the good vibes and emotion were washing over me in waves. Crying face emoji. Congrats again, Carlos, you were truly magnificent. That's my immediate thoughts, because this year I felt like the festival meant so much more to so many people in more ways than ever. A real sense of togetherness and belonging. Loving hearts, smiley face emoji.
So these answers are from at Public Rights of Way Explorer on Instagram, which is Charlotte, who uses she, her pronouns. She spoke at the Pam and Piranha paddle session on Saturday at Kendal. Have you been to Kendal before? She said nope, it was her first time in 2021. She was invited to be a paid speaker, so got to enjoy the festival. What was your favourite part of the festival? The opportunity to meet so many people putting faces to online names. What are your thoughts on diversity at the festival? Diversity in the speakers was brilliant, but diversity in the audience wasn't great. This was something that I noticed as well, and something that we spoke about with Soraya. Is there anything you'd like done differently or better next year? And Charlotte said, more opportunities for free tickets to make it more accessible for everyone.
We spoke to at Summit.Special, that is Saba Ahmed. When we asked her if it was her first time at Kendal, she said it was. She was actually speaking at the Buff stage on Saturday afternoon, invited by craghoppers and also to lead a walk. Her thoughts about diversity at the festival were that it was great to see people from a diverse background, but evidently we do need more diversity in the outdoors. When we asked Saba if she would like to see anything done differently or better next year, she suggested that she would love to see a play area for kids.
These answers are from at Roxana G. Baz on Instagram, who is Roxy Barry, and she uses she, they pronouns. Have you been to Kendal before? No. If not, why did you decide to go this year? Roxy said because it had so many diverse stories from folks I knew and backgrounds I relate to. What was your favourite part of the festival? She said seeing all my pals with a big eye TD emoji. What are your thoughts on diversity at the festival? There's a long way to go. The festival director needs to resist less and promote more. Seek out. He said this was their most diverse festival, but it was due to the hard work of allies, not him. And it may have been the most diverse, but there was really only a handful of panels that were. This is something I totally agree with as well. Having heard a little bit about the hard work that's gone into making the festival as diverse as possible, I think there's still plenty Kendal can do to increase this as well. Finally, these answers are from @AdventureGirl81 on Instagram, who is Yasmin and uses she, her pronouns. Have you been to Kendal before? Yes. I first went in 2009 when I first discovered it. I attended online, as I did last year. From what I can tell from the programme, it has evolved a lot and incorporated a lot of what I studied at college. What was your favourite part of the festival? Yasmin says the contemporary issues in the outdoors. What are your thoughts on diversity at the festival? It's good because it's all encompassing. Is there anything you'd like done differently or better next year? A festival ticket and accommodation package. Online talks to be done as a live stream, not uploaded 24 hours after.
Really, the biggest takeaway from it all was just seeing so many different people, so many people that I know from online who have become real world friends, and being able to support them too during their talks and their screenings. That was just a phenomenal opportunity and honour, really. I absolutely loved being able to sit in the audience and just listen to my friends being badasses. I met so many incredible people, some of them being people that I've really looked up to and haven't had a chance to meet yet. So it was great to be able to meet them in person and just talk to them about regular things, but also about sort of their plans and also to have an opportunity to thank them for inspiring me. And also I got the opportunity to meet so many people who had followed Glide for Pride and who I hadn't met before. And it was just so lovely to have them come up and tell me that they'd followed the trip and they'd followed the crowdfunder and the impact that Glide for Pride is continuing to have. So after Kendal, I lost my voice. It's only just started to return now a few days later. So I think that goes to show just how incredible the festival was and just what an opportunity it was for so many people to have their journeys and their stories shared with people who might never have come across them otherwise. So to be part of the most diverse Kendal Mountain Festival to date really is a huge, huge honour, and I hand on heart have to thank you, M. Davis, Claire Carter, the whole KMF team, just for pulling together the most special KMF that I've ever been to. And I really hope that this is the start of just something so special with the festival and that it just goes from strength to strength from here. I'm sure it will.
So that's our main news story for today. But to end the show, I just wanted to reflect quickly on some of the stories that we've spoken about in this first series and get a few updates on them. So in episode 1, Åge talked about the controversy around Norway's volleyball team being fined for wearing shorts that were too long. Well, that's all changed. Bikinis are no longer going to be mandated attire for female beach volleyball players. The sport's governing body has decided that that rule is going to be dropped. In episode 2, we talked about the ethics of horses in sporting events. There's been an update relating to the use of horses in modern pentathlons following the horse and rider distress at the Tokyo Games this year. So after 109 years, the modern pentathlon's governing body has voted to remove horse riding and replace it with cycling. I know off record that Soraya has thoughts on this one, so we might be coming back to it in the future. And it does seem like the outdoor legend about modern pentathlon is going to have to be updated. And lastly, if you were interested in the conversation around Afghanistan in episode 4, Shannon Galpin continues to give updates on where the donation money is going to and who it helps. There are some really good stories coming out from her account, so do go and check it out. She's sgalpin74, that's SGALPIN 74 on Instagram. So, as I said, this is the last episode of the series. There is going to be a series 2, but we will be taking a break for a couple of months until both myself and the panel have the capacity to make some more episodes. But if you have listened to any of the episodes during this season, thank you so much. I truly believe you're in at the start of something amazing here. And until those new episodes, we will still be writing newsletters where the panel share a roundup of news stories that catch our eye. You can sign up to that and read previous editions on our website, ontheoutsidepodcast.co.uk/newsletter. And I had it pointed out to me that I should say I work on a number of other shows as well. So my OG podcast, Seize Your Adventure, is about people with epilepsy doing adventure sports. I edit the Everyday Adventure podcast with Nikki Bass, Wild for Scotland with Kathy Kamleitner, Extraordinary Ordinary New by our very own Frankie Dewar. So if you do find yourself missing On the Outside, please do go and storm through all of those podcasts as well. I, of course, would like to thank the panellists for this series: Annie Pattas, Oge Ejizu, Soraya Abdel-Hadi, Kirsty Pallas, Vedangi Kulkarni, Eden Elgeti, Neil Russell and Frit Tam. On the Outside artwork is by Sophie Nolan. Music is Bass Beats by Alex Norton. On the Outside is produced by myself. Editing for this episode was by me, but editing and transcript is usually by Jack O'Driscoll. Social media is by Frankie Dewar, and our Patreon support crew are Wild for Scotland and Charlie's Supply Shop. And of course, thank you all for listening. If you're listening to this, then you are in at the start of something very special. On the Outside is still a brand new podcast, and we are trying to pin down sponsorship. Very soon there will be a big brand sponsorship here, but we do want to make sure that it is the right brand. In the meantime, I wanted to thank a couple of individuals who have come in right at the start and have supported us financially with what they can. Kathy at Wild for Scotland, Josh at Charlie's Adventure Supply. Thank you both so much. Your support has just helped us get these first couple of episodes out. If you are a small company or an individual that is interested in supporting On the Outside, please do get in touch with us, ontheoutsidepod@gmail.com. There's a link in the show notes as well. And until